Right? Are you ready? Okay, good. And we start with a video, right? So you have something visual at the very beginning. Let me see. So as you might see, Papua is a very different place from where we live. And it's extremely interesting. The languages of Papua New Guinea count over 850, which makes it linguistically the most diverse place in the world. To give you some example, people who speak the same language, they often count less than 1,000. Interesting, huh? And though there are similarities, they have a very different rules, rituals, and cultures. Margaret Mead was a culture anthropologist, and in the 1930s she did a research on individualism, competitiveness, and collaboration in Papua New Guinea, with those guys. And she found out, to actually her big surprise, that those tribes which collaborate are more likely to be successful than those where individuals compete with each other. She also said that individualism is a culture suicide. But she didn't come to Papua to tell them how they should live their lives. She came to listen, try to understand, learn. Now, in our organization, we have teams, tribes, cultures. Very often, they don't understand each other. They sometimes speak even a different language, like those finance guys, marketing guys, IT guys. They sometimes don't know what the other group is speaking about. And now, we, as Scrum Masters and Agile Coaches, we are going to those companies with our tools and processes and frameworks. Would it make a difference if we go with, like culture anthropologists, with just a more listening and curiosity? Try to understand them first. Don't tell them all those best practices. In order to be agile, you have to do daily Scrum every day. 15-minute maximum, right? So I'll tell you my story, how I started. Many years back, 2005, I happened to be in the US at our customer, and they switched to Scrum. So when I got back, my manager told me, "Hey, and now you're gonna be Scrum Master, isn't that great?" I was like, "No, I don't want to be Scrum Master. I'm not going to be a Scrum Master, come on." He said, "No, but you have to. You're the only person who ever seen Scrum in our company, right? So you have to start it." And I'm like, "But I don't like Scrum. I don't want to be Scrum Master." I said, "But at least start it, right? Give me 3 months, and I find somebody else to take it over, and you can return back." So I said, "Okay, that's a deal. No problem. I'll start it." Well, it's just stupid method, but I'll start it. So the next day I show up in front of the team members and say them something like, "So we are starting a new project, those 2 teams, right? And we're gonna use Scrum. Isn't that great?" You know, after 7 months in the US, everything is at least great, if not awesome. So and the reality doesn't wait too long, right? So the feedback from then was like, hey, forget it. We are not going to do that bullshit. It was like, but we have to, right? My only argument, we have to, because the customers want it. So I say, okay, we have to. Somebody else like, can we fake it? Typical Czech, right? But can we fake it? And I was like thinking about it, so yeah, why not? Actually, I don't care about Scrum, so I'm fine with faking it. Let's do that. Let's move on, right? So that was me, 2005, being a Scrum Master. Now, we actually realized it's harder to fake it than do it. So we did it eventually. But it was not the intention. So, and here we are getting to my question. So what do you think is a Scrum Master ultimate goal? What do you think we learn? You've been in the other talk, right? Yeah, pretty much. To create a high-performing team which is based on self-organization. So in other words, you want to do nothing. Just, you know, sitting there and do nothing. Because they are such a great team. So you don't have to even do anything. You don't have to interfere. You can just stay there and hold the space. So we learned that, and that was a thing which I guess I like. Plus, I realized it's more fun to work with people than with code. So I just stopped coding that day. And that's my first thing, first realization, which I did, was that Scrum Master is more than just a team assistant. Because my nightmare when my manager came to me was like, oh, now I have to take care of all their, you know, I don't have a comfortable chair, and my computer is too slow, and I don't know what to do here. And I was like, no. But I actually realized it's quite fun. And later on, I came up with a book and this concept of a ScrumMasterWay. And the first part of it is a state of mind, like how to make it happen, that you truly, inside of your mind, are a Scrum Master. So in general, you have 5 approaches. The first one, you have to start here, teaching, sharing experiences, mentoring, right? When you have a team, you have to tell them, why do we use Scrum? What is this whole Scrum about? What is the role of a Scrum Master about? What can you expect from each individual meeting? And once you teach them like everything you know, you might share experiences and say, hey, you know, in my previous company, we did this and this and that. We've been using a Scrum board. And that ball which we've been throwing to each other to keep focus. All that, very useful. If you skip it, most likely you're going to fail, unless somebody else did that, right? So quite important. But actually, sooner or later, you make yourself out of a job, right? And you end up like mostly looking at them and saying like, I tell them everything I know more than 100 times. I just don't think I have anything new to be said. I do this week because I've been at a conference and I learned like 10,000 different wonderful ideas. But the next week, okay, you read a book or a blog or go to the meetup. But still, eventually you end up like mostly saying, what shall I do? So you look around and say, oh, isn't that cool? Hey, isn't that cool? I can remove impediments. Finally, after all, there is a tangible work, right? So how many impediments I remove each week, right? And you start helping the team. Bring a coffee, cakes, new password, and they are happy. They say, oh, thank you for that password. It was so nice of you. And thanks for that coffee. I was so tired that evening. Thank you very much. So now that's really helpful, right? And sooner or later, they change. And you don't know why. Interaction is very different. So they're saying, hey, I don't really got it. What takes you so long? You know, I'm waiting for this password here for about a day now. How about if you just start reporting what you're doing? Because we don't think you're really working here. And you're sitting there in your chair, in your office, and thinking like, I don't know what went wrong. I mean, I've been trying. And they used to be so happy about it. I do the same, even better. And they are not anymore. Like this, right? And that's a trap for Scrum Masters. That's when they become the Scrum moms. Or Scrum assistants, if you wish, right? Kind of a useful, boring role which nobody actually needs. Even your kids, they love it at first, but when they grew up a little bit, they tell you, hey, just go. My daughter, she's 4.5. She just said me, hey, we have to wave. When she's going to the kindergarten, we have to wait. And the other day, she was like waving, and then she kind of shows me, hey, you should already go. And I was like, oh my God. It's starting with 4.5. All right, I'm going, whatever, right? So that's the same thing. Wave, but disappear, right? So this should never be you removing those impediments. This one thing is actually very poorly written in a Scrum guide, I guess, many years back, when it says remove impediments. And people take it like that. But it should say, help them so they can remove their own impediments, right? Make them adults. Don't keep them as small kids. So, if you learn that, your best friend in this space is a root cause analysis, right? So if you are good at identifying root causes, you can help them actually so they can remove 10 different symptoms like that, right? That's good. Quite simple. And it works. So you feel good. And sooner or later, they learn those tools as well. They are not that difficult, right? And they figure out that there is always a root cause. So sometimes they use your asking question tools. But most of the time, they don't. They just say, hey, we already figure out that actually here is the root cause, so that's what we're going to do, and they don't need you. So you stay there, thinking like, what shall I do? Why I am even here, right? So you look around and say, hey, facilitation, that's true. So we have 4 meetings in Scrum, very important, right? One of them is 5 minutes, by the way. And so, oh, one of them is 5 minutes. So how long am I going to be busy with that? 1 day with preparation, maybe? Okay, 1 day work. What shall I do the rest of the time? Right? And that's another misunderstanding, because you're not facilitator only for those meetings. By the way, those meetings are so silly simple that those smart individuals in your team can facilitate them most of the time by themselves. They don't need you to do that. But you are there to facilitate any internal conversation within a team, and also any external conversation which is happening with a team to somebody else. Stakeholders, customers, users, product owner in a way, as a half external, half internal. Different teams, marketing, sales, managers. Most of you are living in a broader ecosystem. It doesn't stop with one team and their few meetings. And if you do it right, after all, they learn all those tricks, right? It's not that hard. So time to time, they need you. Time to time, they're happy that you facilitate their retrospective with a new tool, new brand idea, fun. But most of the times, same thing. What shall I do? Hey, there is another one. Coaching. Magical word. No one really knows what it is. So I do a little bit of explanation. I start with a metaphor. So you can imagine coaching as a walking around with a virtual mirror and showing the people around themselves from a different angle, right? You see that? Ah, interesting. Right? And how we do that? By asking questions. So, for example, if you're standing in front of a Scrum board, right, and they have like nothing down and only one thing in progress, and it's in the middle of a sprint, well, one of those questions could be, do you think you can still make it? And what do you think you can still finish? And, you know, concerning that you haven't finished anything yet and you have that amount of work done, how much do you think, etc., right? All of those different questions to raise their awareness. There is a big difference between the teaching and sharing, which we started. Because to teach you something, I have to be an expert. I have to be knowledgeable. I have to know all the answers so I can tell you. As a coach, I actually don't have to know any answers at all. All I need to know is how to ask a question and how to wait for the answer. It's very simple if you don't know that answer, and it's extremely hard if you know it. So keep it in mind. Quiet, right? And I promised 5 things, so there is one more in the middle, and that's called observing. There is a story from Toyota factory, the plant, of a director who one day called all of his managers and told them, hey, you know what I did? You have a yellow footprint steps in front of your team, each of you. So what are you going to do? You're going to step here in front of your team and observe them working for 2 hours. And once you're done, you come back to me and tell me what you think. Okay. So he said that they've been coming, all of them, with the same story. Well, my team is really great. You know, I've been standing there and there have been no issues and they are really working well and wonderful, great, awesome team. I said, okay, very well. So go there for another 2 hours. Observing. And he said that after 5 times standing there, observing, they start coming with new ideas, with improvements, because they see things from a different perspective. They've got enough time to see things from a different angle. So that's why we have this observing. Go and see, right? Just go somewhere and see. And take your time. Be a culture anthropologist. There is no right or wrong on your observation. And once you observe long enough, you start to see consequences, trends, differences. There is one more thing that we should take as Scrum Masters, the observing as a core. Standing there, do our observation, and then you face a situation and you choose intentionally one of those 5. Stay here, do a bit of teaching, coaching, facilitation, removing impediments. Whatever feels good at that time. What I learned through my journey is that we, all of us, have some predefined, used to actions. So for example, when I go to the Scrum review, to the company, we usually start with a daily Scrum. So I observe, 5 minutes, right? Then they ask me, hey, so you've seen our daily Scrum, what do you think? Well, and what I do? Right away to the teaching, right? Because they just ask me what I've seen. What my observation was, by the way, that's all the time the same. Oh my God, that's not a daily Scrum. They don't understand. Oh, it's not Scrum at all. It's just actually some weird status meeting where individuals are reporting to some product owner, Scrum Master, or manager, depending on the situation. Oh, that's all wrong. I have to go back, tell them, right? Very common mistake. Now, once you start to do things differently, you might try to experiment. So my usual starting point now, in many cases, is just a coaching question. I expect I don't know what they feel, so I ask them, so how did you feel about that daily Scrum? And to my big surprise at the beginning, in most of the cases, they said, oh, it was a great meeting. You know, it was short. Just 15, 20 minutes, not long. And we learned something. It's good. Okay, well, huh? Did you are back in your observation circle and thinking like, okay, so what should I do? Maybe if I observe a little bit more and try to understand them, why they find this horrible meeting was actually a good one. It's a matter of perspective, right? So let's see, or maybe I can catch some impediment which I hear there during the daily Scrum and try to, you know, find the root cause for that and help them through this. Or maybe I can next time facilitate it in a different way. So I show them through the better facilitation that it could have been done differently. Who knows, right? There is no one approach which would fit one situation. Actually, the more you experiment with those, the more you learn. But keep in mind, do one and return back to observing and stay there. And then make a conscious decision which one I'm going to choose next. And if you don't know, well, maybe the middle part is the best one. Many times, the same, thing, it happened to me that I didn't say anything, and then they eventually fix it. They say, oh, we've been actually thinking how I asked us this morning how we like the daily Scrum, and it was not really that good. It was too long, and we talk about it, and okay, wonderful. They just needed time. Second part, meta skills, right? Those are those things you have to kind of embrace in your mind. First one, curiosity is your friend. Be a culture anthropologist. There is no right, there is no wrong. It's just, oh, how fascinating. Oh, that's interesting. They're coloring their faces. Wow. And those guys, oh, interesting. I want to know more. And how does it look like from this perspective? And that one. And, right? Like this. Be curious. There is no right or wrong anywhere exist. It's a complex system. People's behavior is unpredictable. From one angle, it's good. From the other angle, it's bad. Who knows? Respect. Specifically, once you look at things, start to look at things from different angles, through curiosity, you hear all those different things. Our quality is really bad. Oh, interesting. We have 0 bugs. We have our best company concerning quality. Huh. Interesting. How those two people, are they even working in the same team? Right? So respect. They are all right in a way. That's my favorite for myself. In general, once you start observing a lot and got better in it, you're impatient because you see it. You just know what is wrong. Do you have to tell them all the time? Maybe not. Maybe if you don't tell them and hold it, they will figure it out. So be patient. Specifically when asking some questions which they never think about. Let it go. They might figure it out later. And the next one is a playfulness. It's a game. It's like this adventure game, where you end up in the room out of random. You just fall down through the ceiling. Hey, what shall I do? I have something in my pocket. Not really. I have this thing. Not sure what is useful. Yeah, there are some people. I might try to talk to them or, do something with them. Not responding. Doors are locked. Windows closed. What shall I do? I can use something, right? Water, not really, right? Like this. You try all different things in these situations. And finally, you end up with some crazy idea that if you open the bottle and put it here, it will actually open a secret door and you continue with the game, right? So being a Scrum Master is the same thing. You don't know which crazy idea will finally make a click in a team. So enjoy it. It's fun. You're gonna love it. There is one thing. You're only gonna love it if you take it as this kind of adventure game. If you would expect that somebody would tell you step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, you're gonna hate it because those steps doesn't exist. So take it as a game. Be creative, playful. Try all crazy things and see what happens. It's a never-ending learning journey. So of course, as Scrum Master, you need to know all of Agile. You must be the biggest Agile enthusiast all around, right? Because otherwise, how likely those other people in the company would follow you? Sometimes the Scrum Master stand up in front of a team, and I didn't really do a good job either, right? I just say you have to, right? They are doing a different typical mistake. They're saying, well, I don't really know, that Scrum is kind of weird. But, they write that you should do the retrospective every sprint, so I think we can try it maybe. Well, they will not follow, right? Just know why those things are here and believe in it. If you don't believe it yourself, you're going to fail. I got lucky. They just followed somehow because I told them we have to better. After all, in order to be great, you have to understand what is Agile. So eventually, once I learned what it is, myself at least a bit, I started to do the Agile community and write the first Czech language book because I felt there is no Czech language book about Agile exists. So I felt the need to spread the message around, etc., right? Then, on this side, you must be good at explaining. If you share something, they must say, oh, that's interesting, tell me more. If you are really boring and not speaking to the point, they'll say, well, it's too complicated, forget it. I'll do something else, right? So even explaining is the art. Then we have experience sharing, right? That's coming from your passion anyway. On the other side over here, we have the facilitation and coaching. So now we'll do a test. How many of you did before some coaching class or facilitation class? That's quite good, about 10%, right? Congratulations! Every single Scrum Master should do it because it's half of your approaches. Half of the time you should do some facilitation or coaching. And we're never going to be as great as professional facilitators who facilitate a conflict between two countries, for example. And we're never going to be as great as professional coaches. But we could be at least that little good on both. And then at the bottom we have this change management because after all, implementing Agile, Scrum, Kanban is a change. It's change of culture, way of working, way of thinking. It's a mindset. It's useful if you are good at some technical practices like extreme programming, right? And it's also useful if you are good at business. And now I don't mean the content-wise business, but the business agility, kind of principles, tools, etc., right? So again, you can coach your product owners. Last one from this section is leadership. Scrum Master is a leadership position. So sometimes people ask me, but I understand I do all that, like observing, for example. I can do it, but what should I, claim in my timesheet? Well, I don't know. Whatever makes sense. I was doing a Scrum Master job. What is your CEO claiming into their timesheets? Do they have any? Does it even make any sense, right? It's a leadership position, so all you need to be is to have some empathy, some kind of a vision. What do you want to achieve? Which direction you want to go with this team, ecosystem, organization? Should be able to heal the relationships, help the others to grow and become leaders as well. It's not about you telling them, it's about you creating an environment where they can grow and take over the responsibility and become leaders. Building communities, right? Listening, all that. So, a couple of my tips to remember, right? Scrum Master is a leadership role. It's not a Scrum Mom, it's not a Scrum Assistant, it's a leader. Everyone can be a leader. Leader is not a position thing, right? It's a state of mind. So, it's a leadership position. And you should be able to work at 3 levels. The first is my team. That's where we all started, or most of us, I guess. You need that experience in order to make it tangible, because otherwise it's kind of a fluffy thing which you don't really my team. So at this level, you facilitate a retrospective, you explain what is Scrum about, you teach the development team how to write a good user stories, you help them to remove some impediments and be self-organizing, cross-functional, great team. If you do it right, in about 6 months, you end up observing, right? How nice, do nothing. And there is a second level waiting for you, right? So the second level is called relationships. So this time, you're not focusing on your one development team. You still have your one development team. But you're focusing on all those relationships and links with your development team and the others. Product owner, manager, customers, stakeholders, other teams, right, in the organization. That's a time where we expect from Scrum Masters to be good at scaling, to understand really facilitation at larger groups, because you have to be able to facilitate a workshop with about 60 people, for example. Not just 7, right, but 60 this time. And coach groups like that. And teach some interesting workshop for marketing, maybe, who are part of this ecosystem. If you do it right, if you do it right, in about 3 years, you end up, observing your dream job become true. Do nothing. Because the whole ecosystem over there is self-organized. And you're ready for number 3, which is entire system. The whole organization. You still have one of your development team somewhere over here, but it's not that important anymore. You look at the whole organization. You really help others to become leaders. You build those communities. You facilitate an open space meeting for the entire organization to deal with the new management practices of performance review, for example, or how to motivate employees, right? You use all those decentralization techniques, etc. All over, you need a system view. The metaphor of it is to be an observation tower and see things from atop. And there are 2 rules. One says, everyone is right. There is no right and wrong. And the other one says, everyone is right, but only partially. That's a culture anthropologist mindset. There is no right and wrong. I'm just curious. I want to see things from a different perspective. And it's right from this perspective, and it's right from that as well, just only partially. So the second tip is, look at the organization from the system level and be really the culture anthropologist. And last one, you just need to be one step ahead. Because if you go to the team who has like no clue what the Agile is about, you can't tell them that, well, you know what, I'm just coming from an organization where we have like no positions and open salaries. And they would say like, what? She's completely crazy. So just be one step ahead. Give them something which is understandable for them. And that's difficult, because the longer you are in an Agile space, the more disconnected you are from those people who haven't started yet. So be able to go back, observe enough long to understand them, and give them a hand. Be as close so you can give them a hand. And don't push. And don't be behind. Be only one step ahead. To summarize those 3 tips, right? Scrum Master is a leadership position. Still need to be a servant leader. Help others to grow into the leader position. Observe. Look at the organization from a top perspective, from system perspective. There is no right or wrong exists, right? And be a cultural anthropologist from that perspective and be only one step ahead and push them. You can't push them anyway. All you can do is to motivate them to change. I'm an author of this book, and I have one copy here to give away for the best question. Otherwise, you can get it on this website or from Amazon. And you can connect with me everywhere on LinkedIn or wherever else. Do we have any questions? A lot of. I noticed when you put it here, so I thought it's kind of a way how to tell me that I should answer questions. So.
Yeah, so maybe first questions here, and then we have online, and also we have some time left. So that's great. We have a lot of questions, a lot of time. Let's move on. And here is the first question.
Hello, 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 hello.
But do you have a best question then? Let's see, let's see. No? Okay. There is question.
I can start off, then I hand it over to you.
Ah, here are you.
Thanks, a very good talk. I really enjoyed that. I'm not looking for a silver bullet, but would you have some tips whenever you are hard as a Scrum Master, start working with a team, but the manager above you, he doesn't understand what the Scrum Master role really is, and perhaps he believes that you should be a secretary booking meetings and things like that. Is there any tip that you could share with us?
My manager believed, but not the direct manager. The direct manager didn't really care that much. He cares about the outcome. But the manager above us, he believed that we should be all developers, coding all of the time. And how we deal with it, we didn't really tell him much. So all of those years I've been acting as a Scrum Master, all of those years I didn't touch a code at all. I've been actually acting as a Scrum Master, but I've been having a position of senior developer or whatever it was. And no one needs to know, right? As far as the outcome you generate is better, and as far as your team is actually happy about your role, it was okay. Sometimes somebody mentioned it like, but you have this position. And I was like, yeah, so do you want to fight with this guy? And do you want to go to explain him? No. But who cares? We are a team together, right? So they've been okay. So I would say, don't tell it up front. Do it and show it works. Then nobody would challenge it. And actually, 4 years after, we've got official Scrum Master position.
Cool. One more question was there.
First question. First, who came in my mind, how much does the book cost?
30 euro, roughly. The Amazon changed the price like all the time, so.
And the second question, how long did you write this book?
About, the writing itself was not that long. It was about half a year. The most difficult was to get it published and get it in a nice shape, etc., and then got it republished, and then got it translated, etc., etc., etc. By the way, I like your question. It's yours.
Great. So, other
Maybe
questions.
you can come later for a signature.
Do we have more questions here in audience? No? So, one more. Yeah, okay. Let's move on there. But still, while waiting for the question, we have kudos. First speaker with a storytelling skill. So, a lot of likes for that. Yeah, we can have a question.
Okay, so what if you come from an organization that requires Scrum and Agile to be implemented from the management part, but the management itself is not Agile? For instance, the requirements are created for 1 year ahead, and you have to follow that.
That's quite typical. 95% of organizations are like that. That one day, you know, here we've been 100% traditional. Here we actually switched, and we are on an Agile journey because somebody decided so. And as the time goes, day by day and sprint by sprint, they actually learn what does it mean to be agile. And some of those would say, oh, we don't like it, we want to go back, and they go back. And some of those would say, oh, how could we do it this way? We need to inspect and adapt. And then they do to the second phase and they say, oh, we actually inspecting and adapting and it's a good thing, and they start to enjoy it. And then they are truly agile. So being agile is not like from one day to another. You go through a transition. You are actually on a journey, life journey. You're never gonna be done because there is always a better way. My class, for example, for Scrum Masters changed significantly when I started teaching it. I was teaching something which from nowadays perspective I would say, oh my God, that's wrong, right? It was still helping people. Now I end up teaching something and I'm quite sure that 5 years from now it's gonna be different. But now I don't even say it's wrong or right, I'm just saying, well, it's constantly changing and inspecting and adapting. So take it this way, it's okay. It's your job to change their minds. Hard job, I know. But I don't have a silver bullet answers, sorry.
Great, thanks. One question from online. Can a non-technical person be a Scrum Master for the pretty technical team?
Yeah, you can. You're gonna be most likely better Scrum Master than the very technical Scrum Master. Because the very technical Scrum Master will have difficulties to coach. Because as a technical person, I know the answers, I'm just telling them, right? On the other hand, it's harder. Because if you came up in front of a team who is not like 100% enthusiastic, very often they challenge me somehow like, ah, that's all great, you know, all that agile, but did you ever did anything like that? And to your big surprise, by the way, it's enough to say, yes, I did. And I'm usually waiting if they ask the second question, like, hey, can you tell us more about it? But very often they say, oh, really? Oh, okay, solved. So with a high self-confidence, there is a risk, the poker face, right? But I have a story prepared. I was just so surprised that in many cases they don't even ask for the story. They ask for yes or no. So if you say yes, you're good. Otherwise, you say no, but actually, you know, I don't need to because I'm a Scrum Master, and then you can explain the Scrum Master position. That's the hard way how to do it, right? But you can, and you're actually going to be much better.
Okay, one more question from online, unless we have here some hands. No, no hands, so yeah.
Working remotely? I don't think so. If you have a 100% remote team where everybody is sitting somewhere else, then you make your life as a team 10 times or 100 times harder. Those teams who make it happen, they work in a way so anytime anybody works, they start an online video channel where they see each other, hear each other, like all the time, and that's how they kind of virtually work together. If you don't have it, if you have the feeling that Scrum Master can just, you know, call those 3-4 meetings and that's it, you're not a Scrum Master, you're an assistant who's scheduling meetings. So you should be with a team, and if the team is distributed itself, well, good luck, but it's still possible. But you have to spend 10 times more effort to make it a team spirit, make it a team, make it personal. So one of those tips on a distributed environment is make it personal. Let people see each other, let people feel each other, let them do something together. And if you can do something together face to face, then do something together virtually. You know, we have those technologies, it works. But in other ways, not really.
Okay, our time is up, but still a lot of questions. So one more time, the last question. What would be your advice for the fresh Scrum Master with not much experience who has entered pretty well organized team?
Buy a book, go to my training. Oh my God, me as a coach? No. I think be a good culture anthropologist. Listen. Ask why. Be curious. You don't have to do anything. Keep in mind that your ultimate goal is to do nothing. So be good at that. Because you said he is fresh, etc. I guess he is fresh in general, like person pretty much right after the school or something, right? And then it's very difficult. So I would say find a mentor in the organization, preferably, right? Somebody who is a Scrum Master of a different team, who would help you and kind of guide you through it, because I don't think you're gonna make it if you don't have enough experiences. Or some backup who would tell you, that's okay, don't do anything, that's fine. As we discussed, stay here, you don't have to interfere. Because we all have that urge, like, but I have to show that I'm working, right? And you're moving like this, but no, you should not, and then it doesn't work. You have to be ready mentally to stay there and do nothing for a day, or 2, or 3, or the entire sprint. And then when they tell you, hey, can we facilitate a retrospective because we've been doing it anyway, so can we do that? You should be able to say, okay, show it to me, and then maybe I'll show you something else next time, and be okay. Most of the Scrum Masters who are like fresh, whatever it means, right, would say like, but that's my job, they are taking my job, what shall I do, right? So keep calm. Let them show, and then try something. Or maybe, as a second hint, what I would do nowadays is like, I would tell them, hey, I'm new for that role. Would you help me to be a great Scrum Master? And ask a team to guide me. If you have any other questions, I'm here still at least 30 minutes over the break and at the beginning of the closing keynote. So if you have any questions, feel free to